Today, we are joined by Chris Olsen with Northwest Moss Removal. Chris, thanks so much for joining us, man, and been a frequent guest on the Handyman Success podcast. If you could open us up by, uh, let's start with, where you're at, Northwest Moss Removal. Like, what was the business revenue last year? What does your team look like? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Jason said, Chris Olsen, I own Northwest Moss Removal. We're based in the Seattle area of Washington State. So people always hear Washington. We're not Washington D.C. We're Washington State up in the PNW. We serve the whole Western Washington area. So I don't know the exact square miles, but essentially about an hour north and an hour south of Seattle, give or take a little bit extra for certain outlying areas. But we service a very large urban area and then a lot of suburban and even rural areas. Um, the business is, shoot, I'd have to do some math, but the business was founded in the mid 90s. I was an employee of the company when I was in late high school, early college age. I left to start my other company that a lot of you know about, my outdoor living space company, Pacific Outdoor Living. And
Yeah,
then a
we'll
few
get a little
years
bit of
after
that.
so what, say what?
We'll get into that a little bit
Yeah,
too. So.
yeah, absolutely. And A few years into start running that company, I had kind of grown that company, and the owner of Northwest Moss Removal approached me. And the long story short of it was, she said, I'm retiring and I don't really have any current employees that I'd want to sell the company to that are willing to take over. There's one other employee that I think would consider it, but she wasn't sure they'd want to spend the money to buy her out. And then there's some other stuff that was just challenging about it logistically. So she said, "What do you think about buying me out?" I ended up buying the company from her and ran both for a while. And then I went through a tough period of time where I closed the construction company, and it more or less imploded on itself after some poor operational decisions and some things outside my control. And now all I do is run Northwest Moss Removal, and I still work for the fire department. So I've been a full time firefighter for the last 10 years as well.
Awesome. How do you juggle that schedule, man? I mean, I'm always just impressed with because you do the firefighting
Mhm.
at least a couple days a week. You run Northwest Moss Removal. How many crew or how many guys are at Northwest Moss Removal?
Yeah, so right now it's me. I have two VAs that work in the office, and then I have four full-time employees and two part-time employees, plus a small rotating list of subcontractors for certain jobs or bigger, more specialized jobs. Um, Average day of the week, we have two trucks plus myself on the road. I'm in and out of the office, in and out of the field, depends on the day. I'm usually in the field when I want to be because I enjoy certain services we do and don't enjoy the other ones.
Mhm.
But average day, we have two or three trucks on the road, and we're doing between 4 and 8 service appointments.
Okay. And also to set the kind of put the pin in as far as revenue, last year you did about
Yeah.
800,000. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have to double check. I believe we booked just shy of 750,000 in jobs, and then actual revenue received was in the low 800s.
Okay. Cool. So you got a lot of coals in the fire between firefighting, the Northwest Moss Removal. Also, you have a coaching consulting company, Delta Consulting, and do a lot with House Call Pro.
Yep.
Real quick, I mean, it's kind of a tangent, man, but like, how do you balance all that? I mean, most of us listening or here, but myself, like, I got one business,
Yeah.
that is most of my
I
time.
I will be transparent. There's a couple of parts of it. The first part is I'm bad at saying no, and I also enjoy working, so I definitely work more than I should. The fire department is a passion of mine. I've loved being a firefighter. I'm also a paramedic. I'm an acting lieutenant, an engineer, and operator for our fire apparatus. And I've been in the fire service for almost 10 years, initially as a volunteer, then part time, and now I'm a full time union firefighter at a municipal department in my area. And I just love it. It doesn't feel like work most of the time. Some
Mhm.
days it does, some days it doesn't, but I really do enjoy it. And the other nice thing is that I have a lot of downtime when I'm on shift at the station. There's kind of a general expectation that we're working from 8 to 5, but I spend a lot of my evenings when guys are sitting around watching TV or working out in the gym or doing something else, working on the business and building
Mhm.
systems or sitting in ChatGPT developing new strategies or writing out new procedures or doing things on the business when I have downtime. So there is a little bit of overlap. And then as far as the consulting thing goes, that kind of happened organically where I have been a client of a bunch of different coaching companies over the years. I've had a few different business coaches, some that were awesome, some that weren't. And I really just love the impact that coaching was giving me. Kind of initially, I did a lot of what I realize now was consulting and coaching, but for free. I would just talk to people and help people out and jump on Zoom calls. And eventually, I realized that it was something that I didn't have enough time for unless I was getting paid for it. And my first exposure to it was I had a couple of people that I was talking to on a regular basis that I just brought it up in conversation, and I said, "Hey, listen, like I don't want to be rude, but I really enjoy spending time chatting with you, but I'm at a point where I really need to protect my time. Would you consider paying me for my time to work with you?" And both of them were like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. What do you charge?"
Yeah.
And that's how I got my first couple of clients. And then after that, I was approached by House Call. I've been very involved with their programs as a just a pro in their system, and I've been part of their events and part of their marketing and helping them out with kind of as a consultant without really realizing it for free. And they actually bought out a coaching company back probably 5 years ago called Conquer Coaching. And she so Conquer Coaching was run and managed by a different group of people. When House Call bought them, they turned it into HCP Coaching over time, and they hired on a bunch of new coaches. They tapped me on the shoulder, said, "Would you like to do this?" Started doing that. They actually put me through a coach training, and it was pretty cool and educational. And then while I was already doing that, I also started working with a few more clients. And then about 6 months, 7 months ago, I forget exactly, a friend of mine, Chris Treese, who also does coaching and consulting, he and I were talking about it a lot, and he and I decided to join forces and actually do coaching and consulting together. And Delta Consulting is a partnership between the two of us. So it didn't really happen on purpose. I didn't set out thinking I'm going to start a coaching company. It was really I started coaching, and then a company was necessary.
Mm. I think that's the best evolution that's
Yeah.
of that. That's so organic, comes from your heart to just help people,
Hmm.
which I can very much testify to over the years of us working
Yeah.
together and chatting and hanging out. So, thanks for sharing that, man. Let's transition to Northwest Moss. If you're unique in that we don't have a lot of like robust exterior maintenance services, exterior cleaning services that are kind of in our ecosphere. So, what is Northwest Moss Removal? What are you guys' services? Kind of give us an
Hmm.
overview of what that looks like, especially knowing like most of our audience are handyman, they're contractors.
Yeah.
I know a lot have pressure washing.
Hmm.
Yeah, give us a little bit on like what about those services and what does exterior
Yeah.
cleaning company look like?
So there's a the in the exterior cleaning world, there's usually two types of companies. There's either total exterior cleaning companies that do a little bit of everything, which I compare a lot to the handyman type business model, where similar a lot of handyman companies do a little bit of everything. They'll patch drywall, they'll mount a TV, they'll redo some flooring, they'll mount some cabinets. They kind of do a mini remodeling job where they're doing a lot of different small services. And then there are other handyman companies that they only specialize in a few services. I forget the guy's name, but somebody I actually met in Alan Lee's group many, many years ago. He was talking to me the other day, and he only does doors and windows now. He
It
still
must be
he still has,
Jay.
yeah, Jay,
Jason Bergfield, I think.
Jason,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Jay's Door
forget
and
how to,
Trim. Yeah.
yeah, I forget his last name, but he's niched down to where all he does is doors and windows now
Yeah.
because after all the years he spent as a handyman, he realized that those were the jobs that he both made the most money on, um, and enjoyed the most. So it was a good combination.
Hmm.
And with exterior cleaning, that's usually the case too, where a lot of them start as a pressure washing company. Because pressure washing is one of those things that if you watch enough YouTube videos, they say you can make $20,000 a month in your first 6 months, and automatically you'll just be rich. And the reality is, it's not true. And a lot
Oh,
of them a
yeah.
lot of them start by going to buy a pressure washer and throw it in the bed of their truck, and then they end up with a soft wash machine and with window cleaning supplies and with roof and gutter cleaning tools and buying ladders, and all of a sudden they have this whole setup and they clean total exterior. And then some of them end up doing big commercial jobs and things like that. And it's wild because there are exterior cleaning companies who their largest job ever is like $500. And then there's us where we did a roof and gutter cleaning for an apartment complex recently that was like $32,000. And Okay, I take that back. I should clarify. That was one property manager, but five different apartment complexes. For those people listening that are going to call me out on that being expensive, I should specify it wasn't one single apartment complex. It was five apartment complexes that were all five very large. Um, but it's pretty wild because when you really get your systems down, you're talking about average ticket sizes that are only a few $100s. I mean, our average ticket is between $600 and $800, but when you can do two of those tickets per day per crew, and it's a very scalable model where it doesn't take a lot to teach somebody how to do most of our services, whereas it takes a long time to train a carpenter or an electrician or a plumber to know how to do their job well. I can teach a 20 something year old that shows up to work on time and isn't scared of heights how to do all of our services in 3 to 6 months. And then they're a fully fledged employee.
Yeah, and
So
just to
it's
put a little context too for our listeners, Chris, I remember when we started working together years ago, and you started a handyman business.
mm-hmm,
It grew into a general contracting company.
mm-hmm,
You rebranded to focus on, really
mm-hmm,
nice big decks, outdoor living spaces.
yep,
So I just want to set the context for our listeners. Chris has been in the game from the handyman side, the contracting side, niche down,
mm-hmm,
and now in the exterior cleaning.
yeah,
So that experience is really
yeah.
important to know.
Yeah, and the original vision when I bought the company was I had my exterior construction company. Our main focus was decks, fences, patios, pergolas, gazebos, like outdoor living spaces. And my thought was, oh, cool. Now I can build exterior spaces and I can clean exterior spaces. What I didn't realize at the time was a how much more profitable systemized small ticket services are than large jobs, and how much more scalable service companies are than general contracting companies, and how much less work it was to manage. Because my general contracting company failed not because I wasn't making a lot of money. I mean, the year that we decided to close shop, we were on track to do $3 million in revenue, but we were doing $3 million of revenue with poor systems, employees that I should have fired that were still working for me, over leveraged in debt, spending too much money to make not enough money, and just all these little things that added up to realizing I was actually making less money with twice the amount of revenue I had made the year before. And with small ticket services, it's a lot harder for that to happen. I mean, you can still end up in the hole with a service company, but if you screw up a job, you're writing off $500, not 50,000. It's a huge difference in impact to the overall business because you're dealing with 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 5,000 customers a year instead of 20.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. So, as far as like you mentioned systems. It's kind of like you're doing the same thing, and also it's important to know in the PNW Seattle area. I mean, they got moss on those roofs. There's a lot of moisture.
Everything. Yeah.
It's a really good service area to offer exterior
Mm-hmm.
cleaning, and especially the big focus on moss removal, roof
Mm-hmm.
cleaning. Might not be as important, in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So when it
My,
comes
my
to
my old the old previous owner used to have a sign on the wall in her office that said a rolling stone gathers no moss until it rolls through Seattle.
That's good. Myself being in Oregon, yeah, I see
Yeah.
a lot more moss on the roofs. If you didn't have to worry
Yeah.
about that in California, Arkansas.
I was gonna say, I bet you even compared to where you were at in California, it's probably so much more green because
Oh yeah,
you were still on the West Coast, but the climate is so different down there.
yeah. Well, now we've got what you guys have. It's called
Mhm.
rain. It's when the water
Yeah.
falls from the sky. Yeah, it's quite a nice thing
Yeah.
that we
For
miss.
10 and a half months out of the year.
Yeah, that's right. Like you mentioned, systematizing. How do you, like working with thousands of clients a month, all these jobs, multiple crews, everything's so systematized and canned. You've got actual monthly recurring revenue on contracts.
Mhm.
So, if you could kind of break down, like when people pay you guys, if you could break down like the contract versus the one-time jobs and like how are you
Yeah.
kind of orchestrating this that, obviously you do the coaching, you do the firefighting, you run this business.
Mhm.
You carved out time to speak with us today. There's a lot of systems, and that's
Yeah.
really for our guests. I really want to dig into that because I really commend you, Chris, on your
Mhm.
focus on profitability, creating systems that run without you. So if you could kind of talk a little bit more about the systems that power Northwest Moss Removal.
Yeah, there's a few that are probably the biggest. The number one is we have a really well built out, robust system inside our CRM. So we do have a lead intake process, an estimate process, a sales process, scheduling process, and we stick to it. So both me and my team in the office, which are both VAs, and it used to be just me. I've had my VA office manager for about a year and a few months, and prior to that, I was doing everything myself. Um, because when I was running both companies, I had an office manager in person in the office. But when we closed the construction company and I kept Northwest Moss Removal, I did everything myself for the first year or so after that transition because I had to lay off a lot of my staff. And when I finally got my VA, it was like a life changing difference because a VA is just absolutely amazing. And just for the listeners that don't know what I'm talking about, a VA is virtual assistant. So somebody that works remotely, and a lot of times they work in a foreign country, and they are basically entirely virtual. So my VA is Philippines based. Her name's Kendra. She is a godsend. I don't know how I'd exist doing all the things I do every day without them. But she does the majority of our texting, emailing, inputting clients, and she actually sends out, I don't know, something along 80 to 90% of our estimates. All of our estimates that are simple and easy, meaning they're cut and dry, straightforward, square footage and photos of the property are available online. They're sent out before I even see the lead came in. So if you went to our website right now and requested an estimate while I'm on this Zoom call, Kendra would have you an estimate in roughly 30 minutes, and it would be in your email inbox and showing up on your phone as a text message. And
I
then
love that
over the
speed
next,
to lead. It's
yeah,
just so important.
yep. And then on top of that, over the next 3 weeks, neither me or Kendra has to do anything because our CRM automatically sends you a follow up at 24 hours later, 3 days later, 7 days later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. So you'll get a total of 4 or 5 follow ups from us asking, do you have any questions? Would you like to approve your estimate, etc. And then if you don't respond, it gets automatically flushed into the reject pile. Or if you respond back yes, it prompts you to sign an agreement, and then it sends me an email, and either me or Kendra reaches out to schedule you. And as far as the recurring versus one-time services, most of our clients are a one-time service when they first come to us, but then as soon as we do that first-time cleaning, we make an offer on site, either me or the crew or whoever's on site, to get them onto a recurring contract. For a window cleaning, we might offer them quarterly or biannual or annual. For roof and gutter cleaning, it's usually once or twice a year, so annual or biannual. For pressure washing, it's usually a year later. And on top of that, even if we offer it and they say no, they get an email either 3 months, 6 months, or a year later, depending on the service, offering them a repeat service. And that's automatically done in our GHL and our CRM.
Awesome. So GHL, go high level. So you have this system, this automation system that is a combination of largely House Call Pro and
Yeah.
go high level. If you could explain a little bit more detail, because this like how are those systems connected? Like what does what?
Yeah. So to be transparent, 90% of what we do is in-house call. Originally, when we got onto house call many years ago, it didn't have a lot of the automatic marketing follow-ups that it does now. Those are actually recent additions to the software that the development team there has added.
Mhm.
The marketing dashboard within house call was very basic when I first got house call, and they've added it to it and made it a lot more robust. Where they have everything from email, texting, and even postcards built into the CRM where you can build custom campaign flows to say something along the lines of, let's say, window cleaning, for example. Jason, you call us, you book a window cleaning for the outside windows of your house. We show up, you pay us the couple $100 for the window cleaning, and then you say, no, I don't want a recurring contract. I'll just get a hold of you guys later. In house call, I can set up a flow where it says, okay, with a window clean, they're going to get a reminder 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarters, and a year later saying, hey, it's time for a window cleaning. Would you like one? And I can customize each one of those emails. I can include images and graphics, and I can customize it based on zip code, area, or service. So GHL does a very similar thing, but because it's right built into the software, it's easier to keep track of. But when we first started, we did all of that in Go High Level and used Zapier to connect the two because there's no direct native integration in the API.
Cool. Yeah, whenever people ask about CRMs, there's a lot of options, and for
Mm-hmm.
the tech savvy, House Call Pro is a really
Mm-hmm.
good option if that doesn't scare you. It
Yeah.
does scare you, there's a lot going on there, but it's really powerful. So you're a great
Hmm.
example of someone who's fully using that technology to kind of facilitate all these things really
Yeah.
seamlessly.
The other thing I always tell people is for everybody listening, I'm a little bit biased. I obviously work with house calls, so I like
Yeah.
them. So take whatever I say with a grain of salt. But I've used JobTread, Jobber, House Call Pro, Go High Level, and a couple of the inexpensive ones like Service Fusion, and I've even done a trial of Service Titan. And one of the reasons I like House Call and I've stuck with it is because House Call has all these different features, but their base subscription plan is cheap. It's like $199 a month or something like that. But all these add-ons that I talk about, you can pick and choose what features and usability you actually want. So, like my understanding with Jobber these days is they only have 3 tiers, and you basically pick cheap, middle, or expensive, and they
Yeah.
come with a preset list of features. But if there's a specific feature you want in that higher tier, you can't get it at the middle tier. House call strategy is they have a basic and advanced tier, but it's only about how many users have access to the system. And then all the add-ons, like if you want a VoIP phone system, if you want the marketing dashboard, if you want the AI CSR call answering service, all of those are just add-ons that you pay a monthly fee for. And that way you can kind of pick and choose what you want. So, like Jason mentioned, if you're tech savvy, you can add all these crazy features and add-ons to use in the system. But if you're just somebody that wants the basic, simple CRM features, it's included with the base option. So you don't have to pay for all the extra stuff if you're not going to use it.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I forgot what we agreed upon for House Call Pro to sponsor the episode, but I'm totally kidding. I would be remiss, my partners at yeah, Handyman Champion CRM. It's really
Mhm.
basic, really simple for
Yep.
handyman businesses. We are building all these features. Really, House Call Pro is a great inspiration of people that are
Yeah.
doing great things with new emerging technology like AI, automations, things like that.
Yeah, and I haven't personally used it, but from what I've seen of the CRM that you guys have developed, it's really cool because it's really good for a one-man operator that
Yep.
doesn't need all the extra stuff that a lot of the big CRM companies offer. Because the
Yeah.
reality is, if I was a one-man show exterior cleaner or a one-man show handyman, house call is kind of overkill. I mean, it's awesome as you're growing and scaling a bigger company, but it seems like what you guys are developing is perfect for people that don't want all the extra stuff right away.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not here to promote House Call Pro, Handyman Champion, but we're certainly not we're not trying to hide. Like we want to give
Hmm.
value to people. So
Yeah.
I love going in the weeds with House Call and all the cool stuff they're doing. And
Hmm.
you're a shining example of like, man, the ROI that you're getting from fully
Hmm.
leveraging all that cool stuff is so kudos to you
Yeah.
for really digging in and making it work for your exterior cleaning business.
Yeah, and the biggest piece of advice I give everybody is like I love house call, but there's a lot of great CRMs out there, and the
Yeah.
reality is 90% of the people on every CRM in existence are not actually using it even remotely close to its full capacity.
Mhm.
So if you're a growing scaling company, that's one of the first things I recommend to clients I coach is, are you even using your CRM as a CRM? I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that are using their CRM the same way they'd use a QuickBooks Online account to keep track of clients. I mean, all they're doing is using it as a calendar and an invoicing system. And
Mhm.
it's so much more than that. If you dig in and leverage the features that your CRM has, you can save yourself so much time, so much headache, generate yourselves more revenue. I mean, there's so much you can do if you really dig into it.
Awesome. So let's kind of transition for like so what are you doing for marketing to, get all these leads, customers in the pipeline that then all these automations and efficiencies fire off, Kendra's, work on the phone, sending the
Yep.
estimates, the and speed to lead, incredible like response
Mm-hmm.
time to just get on someone's calendar and books so they're not calling the next person right away. So
Yeah.
kudos to you guys on that. But how are you guys filling the pipeline?
Yeah. Well, and as far as speed to lead goes, I mean, it, exterior cleaning is very similar to handyman companies for those people listening, where we've all experienced that where we miss a phone call and it goes to voicemail. We call them back an hour or two later and they already pick somebody else. Because
Mm,
when you're hiring a custom home builder to build your home, you usually do your research and you have somewhat of an idea of the company you want to hire, and you pick them because you trust them before you even get a hold of them. With exterior cleaning, I mean, the reality is cleaning windows is not that hard. Mounting a TV is not that hard. So if you are not answering your phone and they call the next person on Google or the next person on Yelp or the next person on Facebook, speed to lead lands you so much work and sets you apart from, I mean, geez, 90% of your competitors because nobody answers their phone these days, it seems like.
Yeah, and I got to plug Handyman Marketing Pros. We are developing, depending on when you listen to this, it might be out, but a solution to
Mm-hmm.
answer speed to lead, a solution to handymen not having to answer their phone on the job site
Mm-hmm.
and missing a real job that's
Yep.
waiting right there. It's the biggest pain point for any owner operators, a lot of trade
Mm-hmm.
businesses, and CRM technology, your marketing company, all these things. There's a lot of options because at the end of the day, if you are not quickly responding to leads, they will go down to the next listed person on Google if they need something done quick. It does vary by industry, but
Mm-hmm.
as Chris pointed out, not to diminish the power of Northwest Moss and their ability to clean windows, but there's a lot of options out there for window
Mm-hmm.
cleaners, roof cleaning, and the ability to get a quote and come correct with that. Hey, we're professional.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to show up on time, and
Yep.
communicating that in the whole sales process wins the
Exactly.
business.
Yeah. And then my second biggest advice for marketing is to go back in time 10 years and hire Jason. Because the truth is that we do very little marketing. And the biggest reason we don't need to is because we've invested time and money and effort over the last 5, 7, 10 years into SEO, into organic presence online, consistent posting on social media, consistent updates to the website, consistent updates with hosting and quality of the website, consistent updates like GMB posting and Facebook and everything else. And we got, I was going to reference these 2025 numbers that you and I talked about, Jason, but we got 1,149 leads last year that I know of. The number is definitely higher because there's ones that got missed or didn't track. But we got over 1,150 leads last year, and our marketing expense was 0.37% of our annual revenue,
That's amazing, man.
which is a fancy way of saying we basically did almost no marketing. I mean, besides door hangers and some print marketing, business cards, a wrap on one of the trucks, actual digital ads like Google, Facebook, Yelp, Angie's List, any of those. We did zero advertising on Angie's List or Home Advisor or Thumbtack. The only advertising we do on Yelp is we pay the hundred and whatever dollars a month to have a professional account. So it looks nicer and has our
Yeah.
logo. We don't actually run any ads. We just have a nice looking account. But because we have 50 or 65-star reviews on Yelp, we show up high on the list so people find us. And then on Google, I think I ran LSA ads for a few months for fun just to see how the lead flow would be and what the ROI would be. But 90% of our revenue is organic. And of that organic revenue, I would say about 30 to 50% of it is repeat clients that are looking us up and finding us. And the other half of it are organically finding us online, either through Google or ChatGPT or search. And I credit a big part of that to Jason over the years because he's been my marketing guy forever, and a big part of that to social media and consistently posting and consistently being available and present online.
Mm.
And then getting into all the AI stuff nowadays, that's a whole different tangent and rabbit hole. But we're also doing a lot of work to try and be more relevant and searchable and findable on AI. And a big part of that, like you and I were talking about before the call, Jason, is the same stuff you do for SEO applies to AI. And then we also have some weird guerrilla strategies that I don't know how you feel about. But for example, I send my VA on Reddit every day, and she goes and tracks down Reddit threads of people asking about moss removal and
Mm.
answers their questions without actually making a sale, but mentions our name in the post.
Yeah.
And that lends us credibility to ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and all the AI platforms because it views it as people discussing our name while providing value to people without trying to sell them something.
Yeah. So Reddit actually organic posting to socials
Mm-hmm.
is a increasing in ranking value over the last
Mm-hmm.
year
Yep.
because ultimately adds authenticity and more
Mm-hmm.
context to your business.
Yeah.
There's this really funny meme I saw, because AI optimization is all the buzz in marketing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's it's a sham. Good SEO is AI optimization. It's all the same stuff. So there was this meme going around that AI optimization was just Reddit posts. Like 95% of ChatGPT was sourcing from Reddit. Like it was this research that was done for some stretch of time where ChatGPT was literally sourcing like 90% of its results from
Mm-hmm.
Reddit. And now it's
Yeah.
balanced in between the website and other sources,
Yeah.
socials. So um, To our listeners,
it's really funny because one of the business coaches I work with owns a maid service company in Portland, and she told me that something along the lines of 50% of her leads come from ChatGPT, and it's because her VAs were consistently posting on Reddit, and when that change or shift happened, she started getting a million leads from ChatGPT, and she couldn't figure out why, and then somebody told her that it was because she was posting on Reddit so often.
yeah, it's interesting too how the
It's a really
industry
weird
can
thing.
change because I know for a lot of home service contracting, ChatGPT, AI search, the lead is percentage wise is super
Hmm.
low. But I can see more for maid services,
Hmm.
like realtors, for example, is another
Oh
one.
yeah.
There's more searches on ChatGPT. So like when it comes to contracting, there's certainly it's really
Hmm.
minor at this point. Will consumer
Yeah.
behavior change? Probably as
Yeah.
technology changes. But my guidance specific to this AI marketing is, if you asked me 2 years ago, should I be posting organically to Facebook to help with SEO? I'd be like, nah. I mean, if you,
Hmm.
it's more for like engagement and being in
Yeah.
front of your audience.
It's
It's
branding more than it is
it's
marketing.
it's branding and it's pay to
Yeah.
play. Like your reach on Facebook posts organically are super low,
Yeah.
but now I would say yes, because
Hmm.
these algorithms, whether it's Google or AI, it's all algorithms.
Hmm.
They're sourcing this information from the website, from Google,
Yep.
from Facebook posts. So if you're making a post of Northwest Moss Removal sponsored the Little Kids League in,
Hmm.
Seattle, Monroe, Washington, or
Yep.
whatever, you are instantly creating this authenticity, this local
Hmm.
relevance, and connecting that with your brand. Your website has your keywords, your focus services. It's reinforced on your Google profile. You got
Yeah.
five-star reviews flowing in. So there's all this context of
Yep.
authenticity that is then lifting the rankings in algorithms, whether it's Google, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So organic social posting is more important today than it
Hmm.
was a year or two ago because of the
Yeah.
authenticity.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I attended the first day of Job Tread's user conference in Dallas, and one of the speakers was Marcus Sheridan, the guy that wrote "They Ask You Answer," and he compared like organic social media posting to like the equivalent of what it was like writing blogs 5 years ago, where
Yeah.
it basically like it ChatGPT and all the major AI platforms, they they can see your reviews on Google, but they want to know whether you are a reasonable, engaged, reputable, good
Mm,
company. And it's really funky how they determine that. Like one of the things he talked about was apparently for a lot of the AI search engine, it's important that somewhere listed on your website is your like like your federal tax registration number or your licensing number or things like that, because if it's easy to find, AI views that as being transparent or something
mhm.
like that.
Yeah, and it would theoretically
Weird
match
little
up
things like that. Yeah.
that using that specific example, it would match up that number with a public like from
Hmm.
the CLB, the
Yep.
Contracting Licensing Board, and so that
Yep.
adds that relevance and that authenticity. And
Yeah.
so being an authentic local business
Hmm.
is honestly one of the most powerful SEO strategies you can have.
Yeah. And it's funny because there's a lot of factors I had never considered. Like as a great example, the LLC I operate under is a different name from the DBA that I operate under. So my contractor's license listed with the state of Washington is listed under the legal name of my company, not the name I operate under. So if somebody Googles my business name, it shows that I have a license and it shows that I'm a registered DBA, but the name on the license on the Washington Labor and Industries Contractor Registration Database is the legal name, not the DBA. So because of that, AI could get confused if I didn't have the name of the legal entity on my website saying
Mm,
Northwest Moss Removal is a registered DBA of C&K Construction LLC,
mm,
because the names might not match, if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
weird things like that that I had never really considered actually might be relevant.
Yeah. So to cap the marketing, like I commend you, Chris, on like your organic like focus. And that's my advice for, and we've worked with any I've talked to any of our listeners here on the Handyman Success podcast is build up SEO, organic marketing, networking, build a reputation because it's way more profitable
Mm-hmm.
and scalable and long term
Mm-hmm.
than spending money on ads. Is that
Yep.
important to grow and scale? Absolutely. But look at how much look at how much revenue is tangibly coming from organic where you still don't have to be running thousands of dollars of LSA, which comes right off the
Hmm.
bottom line. So I just commend you for that big focus, man. It's been certainly my pleasure to serve your business over the years. So we've got like 10 minutes here, and that makes me sad. But we are joined by Kobe. Kobe, I apologize, me and Chris, we jam a lot, and so did did you have any specific like kind of transition here we could talk to Chris about the last 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's all right. Chris, what I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned a lot about your VA. I had a VA in my business. I knew how useful she was, but how would somebody go about finding a VA, training a
Hmm.
VA, building the
Hmm.
trust enough with somebody in another country to give them access to your CRM and all that sort of stuff?
Oh man. So to be totally honest, that's a way longer conversation than I can have in 10 minutes. The short version is I'll say there's three main ways to get a VA. You can either hire one directly if you have connections or through something like Fiverr or something like that. I don't really recommend that because you're not really sure what you're getting or who you're working with. You can work with a staffing company. An example of that would be somebody like Ninja VA. They work similar to how a labor work source would do, where you're hiring them and they are staffing you with a VA, and you're essentially paying them as a middleman staffing company, which it has its upsides and has its downsides. And
Hmm.
on the back end, what they're doing is they're paying the VA $6 an hour, charging you $18 an hour, and the difference is their operating revenue. The third option is you can hire a recruiting company, somebody like Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants, which is who I use. There's other ones out there. Sphere Rocket is probably the biggest, most well known. And the way they work is you pay them a fee, similar to if you were hiring a headhunter or a recruiter for an employee. They interview, background check, vet, and find you candidates. You interview them, and then once you hire them, they become your contractor, your employee. You hire them as essentially a 1099 because they work outside the US. So that's also complicated, but the long story short is people that work and live outside the US, neither you or that person have to pay US federal taxes. So you pay them $300 whatever, it's not taxed on either end because they don't live or work in the US.
Yeah.
Um
They're
I
liable for handling that in their country
Yeah,
if they,
they're liable for
yeah,
handling their own income tax in their own country. They don't have to pay tax in the US and in the Philippines,
yeah.
for example. Um and the difference between the three of those is just what your end goal is. I wanted to build a team and keep those people long term. I'm not looking to like staff 20 people in a call center, and if they quit or leave, I don't really care. I just get another one. I wanted to hire a member of my team. So the the recruiting company at Sphere Rocket, like I don't think they would call themselves a recruiting company, but that's kind of how I explain it. And I like that simply because they are my team member. I get to keep them whether or not Sphere Rocket goes away, essentially. So Sphere Rocket you pay a monthly fee to, but then they provide training, they provide onboarding, they background check and vet, and they actually have employees and people on the grounds in the Philippines. So they're a great company to work with, but there's lots of options out there for it. And as far as what you mentioned about building that trust, I would just say it's like any other employee. You bring them on and you give them more and more autonomy and freedom the more you trust them. At the end of the day, they're just a person like anybody here. It's different because you're virtual. But I spend lots of time chatting on Zoom, working with her, and it's not any different to me than hiring somebody in the next state over and them working from home.
Yeah. Yeah, and I experienced a really similar thing with my VA, and I mean she was immensely valuable. She took so much off my plate. It was amazing. And super affordable too. And I think a lot of people have some guilt about, what some of these, Filipino VAs are paid. But you got to understand that what they're being paid goes a lot farther where they're at. So my VA, I think I was paying her $8 or $9 an hour USD. But
Mm-hmm.
the equivalent of that in the Philippines was way greater than that. And so, I mean, she sent
Mm-hmm.
me some super nice emails, about,
Mm-hmm.
how she was able to move into a nicer apartment and help
Mm-hmm.
take care of her brother and everything. So
Hmm.
it was
Yeah.
super cool, but it was
Yeah.
super, super, super efficient. Took a lot off my plate.
Mm-hmm.
But my next question would be, do you see with where AI and automations and things are going, do you see VAs becoming less viable? moving
Um,
forward?
I, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I see AI taking the place of a lot of things, but not taking the place of a lot of people forward roles. So, like a great example is I have a CSR AI call answering service, but I think of it more like a fancy voicemail where it just captures more details and more information. It doesn't replace a person calling them back or getting them on the schedule or following up with them when there's a complaint. I still
Mm.
need a CSR, an office person. Same with marketing. I'm never going to get to a point where I have AI automating my marketing. I'm always going to have a person that works with me to do marketing. That's why I have Jason. I'm always going to have a lot of things are actual people or actual companies because I view AI as a tool, not a replacement for a person. Now, I fully expect that when I hire Jason, that Jason uses AI to do part of his job, but that's Jason making his job more efficient. It's not
Well,
replacing
Jason
him.
also has an amazing, amazing team where
Yeah,
I guess I get the credit, but all credit
yeah,
to our awesome team. But yeah, I get what you're
yeah.
saying.
Yeah, like I just like people talk about how AI is going to replace jobs, but if you look at the global economics of how AI is impacting industry, it's creating almost as many jobs as it's taking away. In my mind, it's making workers more efficient at completing their own work. Like my VA that does a lot of our social media and marketing uses AI to create strategies or to create content or to edit things, but it's not going to replace her. I mean, I can ask AI to make me a marketing schedule and then make me content, but I still have to review it, go over it, post it, create the schedule, and do it. And I'm going to hire a person to do that for me. So I view AI as a tool that's going to help a lot of people leverage their own efficiency, not as something that's going to replace people. But I could be wrong. We'll see what the world looks like in 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's going to make a lot of things easier, more efficient. Actually, Kobe
Yeah.
shared with me a funny video from Alex Hermosi that some guy that has a website business, like, oh, AI, people can start making their websites. So what should I do? Like, we're going to go out of business. And he said, well, what I'm hearing is that your job just got a lot easier.
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
and so if you're so my encouragement to any of our listeners is to be experimenting and what can be made more efficient, what can be made easier.
hmm
If you're on the front end of it, you don't even have to have a final solution, but if you're paying attention, you're going to be ahead of 90-95% of any of your competitors out there that aren't looking at this. And
hmm
there are these pivot points where, the models improve greatly. Like there's a big one about a month ago, or
hmm
ChatGPT is like 6.2 release, and the
Yep.
equivalent of Claude and everything follows, where it improved massively. So that makes more things viable,
hmm
doing better with the AI call answer and things like that. So my encouragement for our listeners is don't be overwhelmed. Look at it positively as an opportunity. It's going to make a lot of things that you can do easier. Um, so while we got a few minutes here, while we're still on the subject of like VA, would love to kind of get both your guys' perspective. Like when someone, what tasks and things, if someone, what tasks can be offloaded to a VA for most like handyman contracting businesses that people can really
hmm
pin in their heads like, okay, this VA, that sounds great. It's a real person. They can be a great human being in the Philippines.
hmm
What are the common things that they can take off your plate?
Oh man, so it's a long list. The way I always answer this question is what you need to do is do a time audit for yourself. So what I always encourage people to do is spend a couple of days of you at your desk or out in the field or working and basically write down everything you do every day. And then on that list, highlight the things that only you can do that nobody else can do in one color. Then highlight the things that other people can do but make you a ton of money in a different color. Everything that isn't highlighted can be delegated to somebody else
Mm.
because your time is worth more than answering the phone, responding to emails, sending out invoice reminders, putting people on the schedule, things like that. My VA does phone calls, emails, calendar management, makes phone calls, sends out messages, reminders about invoices, reminders about scheduling, sends out estimates, takes in leads, inputs people into the CRM, does CRM management, fills out our monthly and quarterly financial reports that I use just for keeping a track of the numbers and keeping track of the business. And then my other VA does Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, social media, content creation, video, photo editing, and all of that stuff for content creation. And between the two of them, they save me probably, I don't know, 50, 60 hours a week where
So
I can focus on the
set the
things that are
bar.
actually important.
What do you pay for both a month?
$6 an hour each.
Okay, so a
And
month. What is it?
one works 40 to 45 hours a week. The other one works 45 to 50. So it's about $600 a week for both, or $300 a week. And so it's around $1,200 a month for one,
Okay.
$2,500 a month for both, plus a few, maybe $100 in software costs because you'll need some specialized software for having a work from home employee.
Yeah. Toby, what was your VA taking off your plate?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same stuff. Email triage. She wasn't responding to every single email that came in. Some of them were things that I still needed to
Hmm.
take care of or answer. But she would organize the email, triage them, reminders for me.
Yeah.
Um, that was
That,
huge. Go ahead, Chris.
that's what we did is we created a general inbox, and the only emails that came to me were things that she couldn't handle. So
Yeah,
it just took me from looking at 100 emails a day to 10. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. She would job cost. So she would go into JobTread, the CRM we use. She would make sure that all the final numbers were correct on the job. She would look over the timesheets for all the employees, make sure nothing looked goofy there. Make sure the daily logs that the employees were sticking in there were done on a daily basis and
Hmm.
accurate. And she did all kinds of stuff. I never had her answering phones or doing phone calls. Her written English was fantastic, but her spoken English wasn't
Hmm.
perfect. She would be looking through Facebook groups and seeing if somebody's looking for a contractor or be posting in Facebook groups, that sort of
Yep.
thing. Similar to what you're saying on Reddit.
Hmm.
Um, I had her take all of the job tread courses on the CRM. That was like the
Mm.
first week of her on the job. She knew more about job tread than I did, and so she had that organized and set
Yep.
up. So it was massive, and I had an in-person office manager at one point too. But Camille, my VA, got way more done on a weekly basis for about a quarter of the hourly cost
Mm.
than the in-person office manager did.
Cool. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing. Just want to put some action to, the VA and I love Chris's exercise of the highlights to really pull things out. Um, Man, I've still got quite a list here, but we're out of time, unfortunately. I do have one quote that I kind of wanted to end with that Chris said, and he said, "We have a system and stick to it." And I just want to
Hmm.
underscore that stick to it. Regardless of kind of the industry, handyman exterior cleaning, remodels, painting, plumbing, whatever it is, create systems with your pricing, with your marketing, with how you give estimates, how you book jobs, even if it's just super basic right now and on some note cards or handwritten, put it in a Google document and start advancing that into an actual system that ultimately someone can follow and then stick to it. Do not bend on your systems, your pricing, your processes. It's the only way you can ultimately scale and grow if that is your goal. And if your goal is not to scale and grow, you're going to be way more efficient and profitable and doing the same amount of revenue in less time. So have a system and stick to it. Chris, thanks so much for joining us, man. I wish we had another 5 hours, but maybe next time.
Maybe next time.